Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Matt's going to be teaching you how to play Behind Blue Eyes. So this has always been a tune that I've loved because of the melody. I think it's one of those songs that just hooks you from the very first bar, and it keeps you just fully focused on this absolutely beautiful melody. And I gotta give big props to Matt for writing an arrangement that just encapsulates it so elegantly. Now, I did get a chance to play throughout the entire arrangement, and I've gotta say, from a finger-picking perspective, it's going to be best suited for the seasoned beginner, budding intermediate player. It's not really hard to play from a finger style or finger picking perspective. But what is challenging is that some of the measures tend to be a bit syncopated. And that essentially means that you're going to be highlighting notes that fall off the beat on the ends of the beat. So that is pretty evident at the get-go. If you think of the very first measure of this tune, that rhythm is literally 1 and 4. So you can hear like the middle half of it is literally highlighting the ends of the beat. And when we do that, it doesn't come quite as natural as if we were to highlight just all the downbeats, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little bit tricky to hit on the ends, those upbeats. So here's what I would suggest as you work your way through this tune. Go bar by bar and do one of two things. You want to, first off, just sing the bar, la da 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 da. If you can sing it, you can play it. So that's playing by ear. But also, you want to approach doing what I did just a second ago, which was counting the rhythm out as you play. So if you're new to counting rhythms while you play, I'm going to put a link in the description box below to our introductory lesson to understand rhythmic notation. So it'll break down quarter notes, eighth notes, and so forth. But honestly, guys, the best way to really understand how rhythm and timing connect is to learn to read standard notation, because it strips away the tablature and it's just you and the notations. That's really the best way to get these rhythms kind of ingrained in the membrane, so to speak. So if you're interested in learning to read standard notation, jump into our course. I'll also link it in the description box below. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how this lesson is going to work. So Matt's going to be teaching you how to play the entire arrangement in this lesson video, but if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link, or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, and do a search for Behind Blue Eyes. Now, also on that page will be the on-screen tab viewer. So this is a really cool feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. All right, guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt to teach you how to play this tune, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Today we're going to work on a solo arrangement of Behind Blue Eyes. I actually did a cover of this on my album Dragonfly, which you can find down in the link below. But let's go ahead and work on this relatively beginner-friendly finger-picking version of this awesome song. Now to start here, we're going to play an E minor chord. To do this, take your ring finger, place it on the 4th fret of the C string. Take your middle finger, place it on the 3rd fret of the E string, and your index finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string. Now, for this, I'm going to do a lot of finger picking, but you can also use your thumb. Sort of pick whichever technique you feel like is most comfortable for the time. You'll notice I'm going to alternate between them quite a bit. So in this case, I'm going to thumb through it, and then I'm going to play the 2 on the A again, and then I'm going to play the 2 on the A one more time. Then I'm going to take that index finger off for the open on the A, and then open on the G. And that's all of measure 1, which in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now, if you're playing a low G ukulele, you'll notice it does not sound the same. Most of the arrangement kind of works, but it definitely is preferred on a high G ukulele. So now we go on to measure 2. We're going to go to a G chord, which we're just going to take our index finger, place on the 2nd fret of the C string, ring finger on the 3rd fret of the E string, and our middle finger here on the 2nd fret of the A string. We're going to strum through our C, E, and A strings together. You can either pick them all or strum through with the thumb. Then we're going to play G, C, E, A as a little filler there, just holding that G chord. And then you're going to play 2 on the A 2 more times to wrap up that measure. So measure 2 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here's what measures 1 and 2 sound like together for context. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right on now into measure 3, we're going to play a D chord. This is a difficult way of playing D. The way that I like to do it here is to use my little indent on my finger where it bends right there. And I'm going to stick my E string into that little bend so that I can raise it off so that my A string can ring open. So it's a little bit of yoga for your fingers if you haven't done this before, but it's such a great way of playing D because it gives you so much more flexibility in a lot of different songs. If that's too difficult right now for you, it's okay to use 3 fingers, but I highly recommend working on that 1 finger D. So we're going to strum through all 4 strings on that D, then G, C, and then C and E together, and then G, and then C. So measure 3 should sound something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 4, we're going to continue holding this D chord. However, we're going to add our middle finger here to the 3rd fret of the E string. Play that. Open on the A, 2 on the G, which is already there, 2 on the C, which is already there. And then remove your middle finger, still leaving your index finger where it was. Play 2 on the E. Then take your index and close it off so that you're barring across all 4 strings and play 2 on the A twice. So measure 4 sounds like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And so that you can hear it, here's 3 and 4 in time. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into measure 5, one of my all-time favorite chords on the ukulele, probably the first chord you ever learned, a C6. The way that we play this is we just play all open across all 4 strings. Really, really straightforward and simple. And then we're going to do some filler at this point, and the filler that we're going to play here is going to be open on the G, open on the C, and then the C and E together open, and then open on the G. So measure 5 should sound something like this when played in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into 6 now, we're going to use harmonics. Now, if you've never played harmonics before, be sure to check out the tutorial down in the link below. But the gist of it is that you're going to lightly touch the strings across the 12th fret. Now, when I say across the 12th fret, I don't mean in between the frets like where we normally fret. What I actually mean is actually lightly touch the string at the fret wire itself. And we don't want to compress it, but rather just want to barely touch that. And that gives us this sound. And the trick is, when you start to get the sound, pull your finger away. And that helps allow it to resonate. So we're going to do this harmonic on a C6. Then we're going to play 12 harmonic on the E string and 12 harmonic on the C string, and then open on the G. So measure 6 in time should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into, well, actually, let's hear 5 and 6 together for context. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that's the word behind blue eyes. And to play this, what we're going to do on measure 7 is we're going to go to an A chord. Middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G string. Index finger here on the 1st fret of the C string. We're going to strum through all 4 strings. Then we're going to play 2 on the A with our ring finger, holding the rest of the chord still there. And then open on the A. And then we're going to play C, E, and A while holding that shape. So measure 7 in time should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Going right into 8 now. Really straightforward measure. We're going to continue holding that A chord, right? We're going to play the C string, then the E, then the A, then the E, then the C, then the G, then the C, then the E. Really, really easy measure. So measure 8 sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now at this point, it has a repeat symbol. And with this repeat, we go all the way back to the beginning of the song, because at this point, we're just going to repeat this melody section. So let's go ahead and hear it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play measures. Well, before I do that, let's hear what 7 and 8 sound like in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and... Now let's go ahead and hear what measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 now into 8 should sound like. And then at 8 we're going to repeat and we'll talk about what happens there. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... So this is 8, now it goes right back to 1. And we go all the way through it the second time. Now we're at 7. Now instead of going on to 8, this time we go on to 9, which is very similar to 8, but it is the second ending. And measure 9 is going to start with the same shape. So we're going to play 1 on the C, 0 on the E, 0 on the A. And then we're going to play 2 on the A with the ring finger, and then pinky up to 5 on the A. So measure 9 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And from here now, we go on to melody B. So with this melody B section, we're going to start with a C chord, but not your everyday C. That would be much too boring. We're going to instead do a higher C, which we're just going to place our pinky finger up here on the 7th fret of the A string and strum all the way through all 4 strings. One of my favorite chords. Then we're going to play G, C, E, and then we're going to move this pinky up to 9 on the A string, and then down to 7, and that is all of measure 10, which should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And then going into measure 11 now, that pinky that we just played the 7 is going to slide down to 5. Then your index finger is going to come over and bar across the 2nd fret of the G, C, E strings. It's easier to just bar across all 4 strings at this point, but remember your pinky's there on the A string, so it doesn't have to be a really good connection there with the index bar. But we're going to strum through all 4 strings, G string, and then we're going to slide our pinky up to 7 on the A. This might be a bit of a stretch, and if it is, it's okay to take your index finger off, but I really recommend trying to get comfortable with that stretch. It's like yoga for your fingers, and if you've never done it before, it takes some work to get that flexibility. But after we play that 7, we're going to bring our pinky back down to 5. Then we're going to play the G string again, and then we're going to move that pinky back up to 7. So measure 11 sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... And now that you can hear 10 and 11 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and... From here we go on to measure 12, which is just going to be a G chord. And then we're going to expand our pinky out to 5 on the A, another big stretch there. Then we're going to play open on the G, 2 on the C, which is already there. We're just holding that shape. 3 on the E, and then 3 on the A. To do this, you just take your pinky and slide it down to 3 on the A there, still holding the rest of the G chord. Play that, and then open on the G. So measure 12 is something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then as we go into 13 now, we're still holding the shape. Nothing changes with the left hand to start. Play 2 on the C, and then 3 on the A, 3 on the E, 2 on the C. And then we take our pinky off and play 2 on the A. Then we're going to add our pinky back on to 5 on the A. So measure 13 should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here is 12 and 13 for context. Should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now we go on to measure 14. 14 is going to start off with that same C chord we played just a moment ago, 0, 0, 0, 7. So pinky slides up to the 7th fret of the A string, strum through all 4 strings. And then we're going to play G, C, and then move that down to 5 on the A with the pinky. Then G and C. So in time, that's like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going right into 15, we're going to just bar across the 2nd fret with our index finger, play through all 4 strings. If you're struggling getting a good tone, if yours maybe sounds like this, a trick is get that finger moved all the way up next to that fret wire, and that can greatly help your connection with it. You know, it's really, really critical that you're not in the middle of the fret, but rather right up next to that wire. It gives you more efficiency with your bar. Another thing you can do is take your middle finger and kind of stack it on top. After we strum through all 4, we're going to then play the G string, then C, E, and then this is tricky, open on the A. We can just take our hand off, or you can just raise it off like we talked about earlier with that D chord. And then 3 on the E, you can use your middle finger here. So measure 15 should sound something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then we go on to 16, but before we do that, let's go and hear what 14 and 15 sound like together. Should be something like this: 2 and 3 and 4 and. As we go into 16 now, we're going to play an E minor chord. To play this E minor, all that you need to do is put your ring finger on 4 of the C and your index on 2 of the A. We're going to omit that middle finger in there. And we're going to play just the C and the E strings to start, which gives us this nice like open power chord type of sound. And then the filler is going to be G, C, E, A, E, A. So pretty straightforward filler: G, C, E, A, E, A. Sounds something like this in time: 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 17 now, we just strum through that E minor chord. Then we're going to play 2 on the A and then 5 on the A with the pinky. That sounds like this in time: 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here is 16 and 17 played together: 2 and 3 and 4 and. From here we go on to measure 18, which is kind of like the halfway point through melody B. But we're going to play this B minor sus4 chord, kind of a weird name, but the reason it's called that is because when we build this chord, we're going to place our middle finger on the 6th fret of the C string, our ring finger here on the 7th fret of the E string, then place your pinky on the 7th fret of the A. Now I like to actually place my index on the 5 of the A string as well, even though it's not going to be played yet. Now you strike through the C, E, and A together, and then you're going to play the E string, C string, and then you're going to take the pinky off for that index to play 5 on the A. And that's what made it a suspended chord. That E note is suspended on the D. Hear how nice it is when you resolve to it. So after you play the 5 on the A, you're then going to play 7 on the E and 6 on the C. So that measures something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into 19 now, you're going to continue holding this chord shape. You're going to play 7 on the E, 5 on the A, 7 on the E, 6 on the C, which is all there. Add the pinky now on 7 of the A. Slide the pinky up to 10 on the A. So that sounds something like this in time. 2 and 3 and 4 and. So here's 18 and 19 together. Pretty tricky little stretch. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Oh, I messed up there. What did I do? Oh, I forgot to put the pinky on. I played the 5. Remember, we got to have that 7 on the A string to get that suspended chord. Let me go ahead and try that again with the 2 7s on there. So starting on 18 and 19, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. Now we go on to measure 20. 20 is pretty easy. C major 7, just take your index finger, place it on the 2nd fret of the A string, strum through all 4 strings, and do a pull off to open on the A. Now the pull offs are so important in this song. There's only a couple of them, and they're a little tricky, but this one is going to help set up the more tricky one later. The trick to doing a good pull off is to actually pluck the string with your pull off hand. So in this case, you'll notice my index finger is actually not just pulling off the string like this, but it's physically plucking the string when it comes off. So there it is fretted. You can see it's pulling the string and plucking it to get that sound. Then we're going to play open on the G after the pull off, open on the E, and then a harmonic. So measure 20 is something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, measure 21, pretty straightforward. A lot of zeros here. We're going to play open on the G, and then we're going to play open on the C, and then open on the E, and then 3 on the E, and then open on the A. So measure 21 in time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here is 20 and 21 played together. Should be something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Going into measure 22 now. Go back to our D chord the first way we played it. So just that index finger across the 2nd fret of the G, C, and E strings coming off so that A string is exposed. Play all the way through all 4. Then we're going to play the E string and G, C, E, A. Pretty straightforward measure. In time should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then going into 23, continue to hold this shape. Play 2 on the C. Play 2 on the E. Here's the tricky pull off I was alluding to earlier. We're going to play 3 on the E and pull off to 2. The way that we do this is our middle finger is going to play the 3rd fret on the E string right there. And then we're going to pull off to the 2 on the E. So you have to make sure that you don't just take the finger off, but rather you physically pluck it to get this sort of. Get that sort of sound. So here's what measure 23 sounds like in time, something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And measure 22 and 23 should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And now we go into measure 24, which is going to be that A chord that we've played a couple times to this point. And to play that, we're just going to add our middle finger here to the 2nd fret of the G string and our index finger here to the 1st fret of the C string. We're going to play through that chord all the way through. Then we're going to play C, E, A, E, C, G. And that's going to give us all of measure 24. So in time, that's going to be played something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And then going into 25 now, we're going to just continue playing this A chord, but we're going to add something to it to make it a little bit more interesting. And the thing that we're going to add is 2 on the A string. So we're going to just add our ring finger here. And we're going to play that, and we're going to let that just ring out through this whole section, this whole 4 bars. So measure 25 in time, pretty straightforward, sounds like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And here's what 24 and 25 sound like, something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, at this point, we have concluded melody B. So let's go ahead and hear what all of melody B sounds like all the way through. Whew, it's a lot, but let's go ahead and go for it. So this is going to be measures 10 through measures 25. Should sound something like this at a nice slow rate. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, you'll notice at that point, kind of sounds like an ending. And in some ways it is, because at this point, we're going to go back to melody A. And what's really neat about measure 26 is 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, and 32 are all exactly the same. Well, at least the first part of 32 are all exactly the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's kind of neat, right? So if we listen now to this melody A for the last part, sounds something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we're at 32, and this is where it changes just a little bit. On measure 32, we're going to play through our A chord. We're going to play 2 on the A with our ring finger, and then instead of just playing the open A like we do earlier in the song, we're going to strum through our C, E, and A strings, and then let that ring, because measure 33 doesn't even have anything, it's just continuing letting those notes ring through. And so 32 now gives us this really nice little ending. So let's hear how 32 into 33, because it's just sustaining the chord, should sound something like this. 2 and 3 and 4 and. Letting it continue to ring. And here is what all of melody A sounds like now when you're playing it as the end of the song. So this is measures 26 through measures 33. 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that is the end of this tutorial. Now, this is a really fun song to play, and actually, it's one of the very first chord melody arrangements I ever worked out on the ukulele. And it had a lot of different incarnations and everything else, and I'm sure you can check on YouTube for different videos of me playing it to hear some other ways you can take this song. But I hope you've enjoyed working on it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. And I'll look forward to seeing you guys next time on the next tutorial here on Rock Class 101. Thanks so much.
Alright guys, so I hope you had a lot of fun learning this tune. It's one of those songs that just has an elegant and beautiful melody, and I've always been a big fan of it because of that. So I do want to give you a friendly reminder that if you did want to get the tabs to print, keep for your records, that was available at this link right here, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Behind Blue Eyes. Now also on that page was the interactive on-screen tab viewer, so the really cool tab player where you can hit play, you can watch it scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.